My mother recounted to the old monk the day I was born, yet he oddly inquired why she mentioned a deceased's birth date. Hearing such words, my mother was taken aback and protested that I was perfectly fine. Ignoring her distress, the monk undid my pants and gazed at me. Fuming, my mother stormed off, grabbed a kitchen knife, and attempted to strike the monk. Her severe nearsightedness betrayed her, causing the blade to hit the tree instead. By the time she regained her composure, the monk had vanished. That night, I dreamt of him, his visage ghostly pale, and his garments drenched, hanging aquatic plants. In his dream, he kept repeating a sentence, "Why are you still alive? You've already agreed." I screamed and got up from bed, subconsciously trying to hug my mother next to me. When I pounced on it, I found that something was wrong. Why was it wet? I looked closely, and the 9 precautions were particularly obvious on the bare head. When my mother heard the scream, she rushed in immediately, but when she saw the corpse on the bed, her scream was louder than mine. No one knew why this monk was suddenly exposed, and he even appeared on my bed inexplicably. What's even more frightening is that her body seems to have been dead for a month. My dad and some uncles endured their fear and tried to carry people into the yard, but the monk's body didn't move at all. You know, my dad and those uncles are at the construction site. Usually, lifting a weight of 100 or 200 pounds was manageable, but on this day, even 6 men struggled to move a dead body. Calling in 2 additional men did little to help, as all 8 burly individuals became flushed with exertion, the corpse remaining immovable. The village head, puffing on his pipe, suggested it might be a supernatural force at work. This notion of a spirit holding back the corpse due to unfulfilled desires or intense attachment sent ripples of fear through my father and his aides, as such occurrences are rare and speak of deep resentments. The yin qi in their bodies was stronger than the others. The thought of the monk's ghost riding on the corpse caused them to feel terrified. But when my father thought that this corpse was still on my bed, he took out the tiger's head knife left by my grandfather before his death and then slashed it on the edge of the bed. "You old bald donkey, don't show your face. You have a head and a debtor. Whoever harms you, go to whoever you want. If you can't drive you away, I will not even be able to become a ghost." My grandfather used to fight the little Japanese. This tiger head knife cut off countless dog heads. It's strange to say that 8 people couldn't carry a corpse just now. Now, my father can carry the corpse by himself. According to my father's intention, this old monk still wants to scare people when he dies. Scaring people even after death, just wrap the body with a straw mat and dump it in the back mountain, and that's that. However, the village head thought it improper, insisting on a decent burial, so the departed wouldn't cling to our family. Mother agreed, urging father to buy a coffin. It took all evening to decently bury the old monk. By the time the funeral chores were done, it was late at night. Just as mother thought of sleeping, a fierce knock came from outside the door. As she opened it, a cold breeze swept in, and the person at the door was blocked by my mom. All I could see were a pair of embroidered shoes, and the ground beneath them was wet. I couldn't hear what my mom said to the person, and after that, she came back inside. Father asked who was at the door, and my mom sleepily muttered it was Auntie Lou, soaked from who knows where, laughing eerily and refusing to come in before walking away. No sooner had she spoken than father shuddered sharply, asking again who it was. Was it Auntie Lou? Mother started to speak before turning pale. Didn't Auntie Lou drown by the river last year? Father was about to respond when the knocking started again. 3 knocks for humans, 4 for ghosts, and right on cue, 4 knocks came from the door. Father bravely shouted outside, asking who it was, but no response came, and the knocking persisted. Mother then asked, could it be that monk from the morning? As she spoke, a pale face appeared at the window, smooth with mud in the hair. Mother screamed, pulling the covers over her head, hugging me tightly. I don't know how long it took, but when I opened my eyes again, it was already bright daylight. Recalling the face from last night, I cried out for mom and turned to hug her, but to my horror, the buried monk lay beside me with a sinister smile. I blacked out. Frightened twice, it was my first fever in 10 years, soaring to 42 degrees. Mother, frantic and weeping, wiped my body with alcohol to reduce the fever while cursing. Just then, father came in, his clothes and pant legs covered with mud. Mother turned her rage to him, demanding to know why the monk's body was back home if he was buried. My father glanced at me worriedly, and said that he had just been to the graveyard, and found the tomb had been dug open. My mother became even more anxious upon hearing this, exclaiming, "Which vile soul dares to unearth the corpse to frighten my child? Utterly heartless." Then my father said something that shocked us all. It wasn't dug open by someone, the corpse crawled out on its own. The local bricklayer had seen it. If it was dug from the outside, the hole would be larger on the outside than the inside. But when we went before, we noticed the hole was smaller on the outside, indicating that the body must have crawled out from the grave itself. After this revelation, the atmosphere turned heavy. Nobody spoke afterwards. My mother held me tightly in her arms, while my father incessantly smoked one cigarette after another. A few minutes later, my father stood up abruptly and cursed loudly before throwing the cigarette butt on the ground. He concluded, "I'm going to burn that bald dead monk's body to ashes right now. I want to see how he comes back next time." And he did just that. That very afternoon, he went to the county to buy 2 buckets of gasoline, then set the monk's corpse ablaze. It might have really worked. For the next 2 nights, there were no more knocking sounds, and my high fever subsided too. But I became abnormal, babbling all day, and even pointing at the wall while talking to people.